You're listening to How I See It, hosted by Han. You guessed it, that's me. I am here to motivate and inspire you with guests from all different industries and backgrounds. So get ready for personal stories of success, of growth, full of highs and lows, and of course, unapologetic realness. This is How I See It. I'm so excited. This has been a long time coming. Kimmy Nguyen is here. She is a content creator. She is the owner of Blushing Agency, which is a local agency here in San Diego. She does social media. She does photography. She does like everything aesthetic, cool, and beautiful. I wanted to start by first welcoming you to the podcast, obviously, but also sharing kind of what called me to invite you onto the podcast, because I think it was kind of like this really divine timing situation. Me and Kimmy got invited to this Marshalls event. When was this? Like last year?
It was last year. Was it springtime?
Maybe spring? I don't know.
It was last year.
And we both are from San Diego. The event was in Orange County, and Kimmy like needed a ride home. And we have always known each other in the industry, never super close, but like always at the same events, have like become friends through the industry. Yeah. And we just had like the most amazing drive home, where I just felt like you got so vulnerable and so deep, and I really needed your story in that time, because I felt like I was in a place where I felt like very alone in my journey. I was like very much in this like mindset of like, and I think, you know, you will speak to this today on the episode, but I feel like I was in this mindset of like, no one gets it. Like everyone else is that way and I'm this way. And you shared this just really deep story that like put healing into perspective for me. So I'm just so happy you're here and that you agreed to come on.
I'm so excited. That was a nice conversation. It was intense, but
always,
it was intense. But I mean, I feel like it's like the quiet, like one-on-one moments with somebody is when obviously you really get to know somebody. And that was like the perfect ride home.
I wasn't expecting it, because I feel like every interaction we had was so like surface level, in the sense of just like being in an event and then like not being able to like actually get into the nitty gritty. And we had that like long drive from Newport to San Diego, and I just felt like it really was divine. So I'd love for you to just get into first a little bit of your story. You had told me in the car that you grew up kind of in a culture that was like half Western, half Vietnamese. So I'd love to hear kind of like where you grew up and how that kind of started to shape you and the things you started to go through.
Yeah. So I was actually born in California, in Santa Ana. I moved honestly all over the place. I've lived in South Carolina.
Wow.
I've lived in Florida, but I would say I grew up in mainly Virginia Beach, Virginia. I eventually moved back here 9 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
We kind of moved at the same time, because I moved here in 2015. So it's been like 10 years.
Yeah. That was a really intense year for me too. I had just moved away from like my family, my friends, everything that I had been like used to. And, you know, I went to like grad school out there. And so it was like, that was like my life. Yeah. And then to move out here, just, I was depressed. Like it was something that I had wanted, but then just like a series of just unfortunate events just kind of started like happening. And so I just found myself in like a really dark place, which was kind of where I ended up doing content creation, because it was kind of like an outlet for me to kind of start like meeting new people and like making new friends. You get so excited because you're lonely, and then you kind of just expose yourself all at once.
Totally.
And then those people start trickling away.
Yeah, it's hard. And I think especially when you've already been like predisposed to like mental health stuff and you are going through shit, it becomes even harder at this point. And I know that your followers who are going to listen to this already probably know this, because you have been so open about kind of your journey through relationships. But at this point, had you met your ex-fiance yet?
No.
Okay, so I need you to get into it.
So my ex and I, we met in Virginia Beach.
Wow.
We became engaged within actually almost exactly a year.
Wow. And how old were you?
I think I was 24.
Wow.
He did not like Virginia, and I think I was just over it too. And so it was kind of just like perfect timing. And so we moved out here, and quite honestly, that was one of those relationships where you think it's like your soulmate. Being like fast forward to like 33, I don't really know if soulmates existed, but it was the perfect relationship for me at that time in my life. He showed me love, how to love, but then also I was just going through like so much personally that it wasn't right. I was toxic. There were lots of other red flags within our relationship as well that, I mean, I was a red flag, but then also like with his life too, I was a fixer.
Yeah.
You know, growing up in like a chaotic home, I thought like, oh, I could fix him. I could fix him. We got engaged and then I said, okay, well, let's get married in like 2 years. 2 years turned into 3 years and then 4 or 5. And we were together for like nearly 7 years, engaged, practically married, but then not. There was a part of me that was always like, this isn't right. But at the same time, like there was so much love and like he understood me.
Yeah, I think that's so big, especially for you to like admit in hindsight as well, because I feel like it's so funny when we met, I was with my ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was always very distant when it came like to emotional intimacy with him. And I think I always knew deep down that like he wasn't my person.
Yeah.
But like he provided like this like comfort for me, like in companionship in a way that I was like, I didn't want to be alone because I didn't want to have to face myself in the mirror. I didn't want to have to like deal with the childhood trauma. And I was for sure, I mean, he was toxic in a lot of ways, but I definitely like matched the energy too. I was so unhealed. And I feel like at that age, I mean, I dated him from 21 to 24. So kind of like that same time, I feel like holding on to the relationship because I felt like I just needed him. It ended up blowing up in the sense. And I think it was because I was going through my healing journey. And when he left, the mirror went right up. Yeah. Right up to my face, real close.
Yeah. I think I met my match, like humor, music, activities, like everything. And I was like, wow, this is my person. But then you're so young and you just don't realize like there's more to a relationship than just love.
Yeah, that is so real.
Like,
so real.
A lot more.
You left really early, I feel like, from the home. And I feel like maybe this is a generalization, but I feel like especially what you shared with me about like Vietnamese culture, is that super common?
That is not common. I really struggled growing up. Like Vietnamese was my first language. I was raised by so many different people. My backstory, you already know this, but my mother had me when she was 16. She wasn't really in a place to take care of me. And so I was raised, my first memories, it was my grandfather and then his wife, who's not my grandmother, but I called her my grandmother. She was actually my grandfather's mistress.
I love finding out shit as an adult like that.
Yes. And they had 4 kids together. And so my aunts and uncles, they also helped, but then also my aunts and uncles on my mom's side, like her siblings also helped take care of me. And then I just like got shuffled back and forth between California and then living in South Carolina, Florida, all that.
That's so hard.
It growing up it was, but then it was like, oh, what's new? You know, like you just get used to it. But my grandmother eventually came from Vietnam when I was probably like 4, I think, and she became my main caretaker, and we were very, very close. We were attached at the hip, and I remember when they tried to take me to South Carolina to live, they kind of lied to me to kind of get me to not panic because my grandmother wasn't there. And the moment I realized that she wasn't coming, I cried for days. And so they eventually just had to move her out there that same week because I would not stop crying.
You're like, nope.
Yeah. So we were very, very close, and she was a very important figure in my life.
Did that shift, and I know we kind of alluded to it, did that shift when like everything came out during kind of when you hit that like rock bottom you shared with me in the car? So take everyone back. So you're engaged to your fiance, you're living in San Diego. I had met you at that point. I even came to your house to like and hung out with you and your fiance with my ex too. What was the rock bottom? Like where did your mental health take like a turn?
My mom had me when she was 16. I didn't live with her until I was like 10, 11.
Okay.
And I thought that that was all I wanted in life. And then when I actually like lived with her, it actually was very, very difficult. We clashed, we butt heads all the time.
Especially at that age.
Yeah. Like she was never really around growing up. And I don't want to like discredit her because I know that she was working. And so like she probably did help me financially a lot.
And she was 16 when she had you. So it was like kid raising kid.
Yeah. But just our personalities and my culture, it's like there's this thing where, oh, you go out and you have fun today, which means you can't go out tomorrow. And like being a kid, that's so like restricting.
Yeah.
You know? So I would find myself like sneaking off into the playground and just like wanting to hang out with my friends, but I was always expected to stay home. And my mom just was not the easiest person, and she would lash out at me all the time. And she never really gave me a good reason. It was just because she said so, or because that's just how Vietnamese families kind of are. Like she was born and raised over there. I was born here in America, and they're very different. You know, it's like you have to be obedient in my culture. You have to listen to your family. You have to respect your elders. I understand all that, and I do.
Yeah.
But like,
I think it's also different when you grow up with like a toxic parent though. I mean, I've opened up here about my parental situation, and like there's like a guilt and shame with like, you know, as a daughter, you have to like respect your parent, but then you almost deep down know you're being treated like shit, for lack of a better word, because your parent is like toxic.
Yeah. But I guess in her culture, she knows her mother is toxic.
Totally.
My grandmother, but like they're not really allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
I really struggled with like, am I like super Vietnamese? Am I not? Like, am I American? And that was just really hard to navigate as like a teen. And then also like as a young adult. Now that I'm in my 30s, I'm super comfortable with it because I have learned to respect my culture. But I know that there are lots of toxic things that comes along with it. And so I kind of just try to just weed it out at this point. Like, I feel like if my family knew I was doing this right now.
I know, but isn't that so freeing? I did an episode the other day. It's the first time I ever shared that my mom was a clinical narcissist. I've never shared in like the last 3 seasons. And I think it's like this confident moment in your healing and growth where you're like, can look back on like all the bad choices I've made to perpetuate the misery of like her and my parents, you know, like it may have not started with me, but you know, I was carrying it on.
Yeah.
And I think to be able to sit in a chair and like share openly and get vulnerable to help other people, like it's very, you should be proud of like where you are in your growth.
I am. And I feel like it's something that's always going to constantly like take work. But I'm a lot happier now. I put up a lot of like of boundaries with my family, and unfortunately it means seeing them a lot less. But you know, with everything that I've told you before in that car ride, like I need it. Yeah,
100%. I was going to say, so you, now that we kind of understand the mom relationship, going back to like this period of your life where things were starting to get dark, how did it come full circle?
So after I got engaged, I think I was 25 right now. We were getting ready. I think we were about 2 weeks or even a week away from moving to San Diego. So that's the timeline. When I was 16, I started getting really curious about who my father was. And we were on the way to church, ironically. We were on the way to church. I was going to say eye roll. Yeah. We were on the way to church, and I just randomly decided to ask my mom, like in the car. I was like, hey, Mom, who's my dad? Because growing up, there was this man, we even have pictures of him, like with my mom and like her friends and stuff, where she goes, this is your dad. So like in my head, this man had been my father my entire life. And I even remember meeting him like a couple times in Florida, and he took me to go buy a couple toys. And I think I remember calling him dad, but it never felt right with me. Yeah. And she just looked at me and just backhanded the shit out of me. Like just like pow, like right to the face. And I was just shocked. And she was like, don't ever ask me again. Your father is a bad person. Don't ever ask me.
Like obviously like a really intensely triggered response.
Yes. And like, you know, being Vietnamese, like you're not, you're used to like ass beatings and stuff.
I was going to say, yeah, same.
You know, like sometimes for no reason. Sometimes you just look at somebody wrong and it's just like, you know?
Yeah.
But that was intense. And so I kind of just like never asked her ever again. Fast forward to when I was engaged and getting ready to leave, I get this phone call from my mom and she goes, "Do you want to know who your dad is?" And I thought it was a trick question because I was like, what? And she goes, "I'm tired. Like, I'm tired of this life. Like, I'm tired of lying. You're engaged. You finished school. You're about to move. Like, you're about to have your own life. Like, I did my part. I'm like, do you want to know?" And so I kind of like, my heart started beating really, really fast. And I remember I was at work and my grandmother was there. And I was kind of like, yeah. And she goes, "Well, go ask your grandmother." Okay. I'm going to pause right there because backstory, my grandmother had 9 kids. My mother is number 7. And then my grandfather like abandoned my grandmother and had like a bunch of mistresses. So she was left with 7 children, all on her own in Vietnam, and scary times, right?
Yeah.
Post-war, all this stuff. And she eventually met a man and they had 2 kids together. Okay. So now I'm like on the phone with my mom, freaking out, and my grandmother was literally across the room. So I hang up the phone, I go over there and I said, "Hey, Grandma." I still, like, a part of me thought she was joking. And I was like, is there like something I'm missing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I go to my grandma and I ask her, I was like, "Mom told me that if I want to know who my dad is, to ask you." And I remember my grandmother just like threw a fit and she just was like, "Don't ask me again." And then
you're like, what the fuck is going on?
I seriously started, now I'm like panicking and I was like, what is it? And then she just like left and went to another room and didn't speak to me. So I called my mom back and I was like, she won't tell me. So my mom was like, "It's somebody that you know." And now I'm starting to get pissed because I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah. And it's like
know?
such a big deal. And they're like, it's a huge secret now. And you're getting married. It's like heavy.
Yeah. And so I kind of was like, just tell me. And so now I'm like guessing and I'm like throwing out names of people that I know in my life. And then she goes, "It's your grandpa." And I go, what the fuck? And I immediately was like thinking like my actual grandfather. And I'm like, am I a product of like incest rape?
Yeah.
So I like flip out. And so then my mom goes, "No, it's your other grandpa."
Like the like the one who came in.
Yes. And so like I met him, I believe when I was like 9, I think. Like he came over to the States with his 2 sons, my 2 uncles, when I was like 9 or 8. And so he'd been in my life ever since, like, and he had been my grandfather.
That's so heavy and devastating. I mean, when you told me this in the car, like, I hate to make a joke about it. Like, I'm not trying to laugh. This is just like trauma kid shit.
No,
like,
I laugh about it all the time.
This is intense. Like, it's just so devastating. And like to find out that like everyone in like your grandma knows, your mom knew.
Oh my
Obviously,
God.
I would assume they were protecting you, but it feels almost a betrayal because you're like hanging around this like rapist who.
Oh no, he is like in our lives, you know. Like
because he raped your mother.
He raped my mother
Yeah.
when she was 15, and he had the audacity to tell my grandmother that it was my mom's fault.
Oh my God.
My mother's relationship with her mother is very unique, and I don't even try to unravel that because I can't even figure out my own relationship with my mother. So I was, and like, so I just kind of.
That's so devastating.
Yeah.
That I'm assuming you just I mean, like my next question would be like, how did you cope? Like, did you just go into complete spiral identity crisis?
So I was in the parking lot and she told me, and I kind of like flipped out a lot. This is a man that when I was like 14, I got kicked out of my mom's house. My mother liked to kick me out all the time for no reason. And so I had nowhere to go. And so I went to my grandma's house, like down the street, he's living there. And he told me like, "Well, you can sleep on the cot because I don't want you to sleep on the couch and mess up our nice couch." So he made me sleep on this like little plastic fold out couch and he charged me. He had the audacity to charge me like, I think it was like $400 a month.
Oh my God. So at this point, you're literally just like replaying all of the moments as a child, teenager, having this, like, honestly, for lack of a better word, like disgusting person, like around you.
Like I like respected him, like my grandfather, you know, like we were never close, you know, but he would always like
he's around at the holidays and you're like going to the house.
I saw him like weekly.
Oh my God.
You know? And so I didn't know how I felt, but I just instantly felt like rage. And to find out the reason why my mother chose to tell me, like, further enraged me, it was because her father at the time, my real grandfather, had been blackmailing her.
Oh my God.
And was
so it's just a shit show. Like, you're just finding out like a huge peek behind the curtain.
Yeah. And it was a lot. And so I remember I called my fiance and I was like, pick me up now. And I remember like he picked me, he said, what do you want to do? And I started getting all the phone calls, like my aunts, my uncles, they were all like, you know, just justifying it, basically telling me that we wanted you to finish school. We wanted you to feel normal.
Which probably just made you feel even like crazier. Like you're the only person living in reality.
I'm the only person who didn't know. I'm like, my cousins knew, my like mom's cousins knew, like my aunts and uncles, like everyone knew but me. And I was the last to find out. And I really made peace with that, you know, as like why they waited to tell me.
Of course. But what did your mental health look like at that point? Because I'm assuming like trauma kid, growing up in a chaotic home, you already have touches of like depression, anxiety, unregulated nervous system. But this, I could imagine, just took you to a whole nother level. Like, what did that part of like your healing start to look like? Because I'm assuming it was like a rock bottom first.
It was, you know, I remember I drank an entire bottle of Patron that night. And my fiance and his friend, they got drunk with me. And I just remember little glimpses of that night. My friend came and like, she came out of nowhere. She picked me up. I was being carried home. Next thing I know, I'm like literally like, it was the most disgusting feeling. I woke up in a cold shower naked because I think I'd thrown up all over myself. And I just had never felt like my skin was literally crawling. Like I wanted to rip my skin off of my body.
Yeah.
Like it was the most disgusting feeling. Like I felt, I can't even explain it. I don't ever wish that feeling.
It's like an assault.
Yeah. It was like the most betrayed I'd ever felt in my entire life. I felt like everything was a lie. And I remember I just tried to throw myself out the window. Ugh. And I remember my fiance's friend was there and he kind of just grabbed me and like threw me down on the couch.
He's like, not today.
Yeah, not today, not my apartment. And next thing I know, I'm awake and now I'm just dealing with the phone calls still. And I finally like sent out like a mass text to everyone. I was like, I know you guys don't respect me, but like for once in your life, just leave me alone for like 2 days. Just don't speak to me. And like they actually did. No one like bothered me for like 48 hours. They didn't call, they didn't text me. And I eventually like started really just, I felt so terrible for my mom.
Yeah. I think it probably gave you a lot of empathy.
I did, because I was just, I had so much like tension and like just negative thoughts about my mother growing up. And it was, she was just always so terrible and like bipolar. We didn't get along. I thought she was just a really terrible human being. And that just made me really understand her so much better. And I almost wish that they had told me that growing up, because I feel like our relationship would have been a lot better. You're
speaking to the fact that like you got to a place where you were like looking at your mom as like a human.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the resentment and anger we hold on to against our parents, especially when it comes to childhood trauma and growing up in a chaotic situation where you feel like your parents weren't creating a safe space for you, like you just are angry and you like put them on this pedestal to like be your parent. And of course that's like, we all deserve that. But the reality is like, they're just kids raising other kids and they're just human.
Yeah.
And I think once you can extend empathy towards your parents, you can start grieving and accepting like the parental trauma.
Yeah. And it took me a long time, because like the moment I found out to like a week later, driving cross country to a whole new state, like it almost, I felt validated. Like, okay, this trip this move is exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
You know, getting away from all of it. And, you know, I call him my sperm donor, but he found out, and I guess he like locked himself away in the bedroom for a couple days and didn't speak to anyone. And I haven't had a conversation. I've said maybe like 2 sentences to him.
Well, yeah, I would hope,
ever
I hope not.
since. Yeah. And I knew that there was no having a conversation with him, talking to him, getting an apology. Nothing like that was ever going to happen. It's not really within my culture to even apologize. So I wasn't even expecting that. But, you know, I moved to San Diego and I just was depressed. Like I wanted to die, essentially. Nothing felt right. Nothing felt real for me. And so then our engagement clearly got pushed back. And I felt like my family, they weren't letting me grieve.
Yeah. And that's necessary.
Yeah. They felt because the abuse happened to my mother and not me, that I didn't really have the right to feel the way I did.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying it like this too, because I think not enough people talk about like the betrayal feeling.
Yeah.
And how like traumatic that is when I mean, at least for me, there's so many instances that I feel like I had to grieve of like betrayal. Like my parents didn't create a safe space for me. Like my dad didn't stick up for me when like my mom was emotionally abusing me. There were like so many moments where I felt like just this sense of betrayal. And I feel like people don't realize that like you can't move forward unless you grieve the feeling of betrayal.
Yeah. My family never made me feel safe. If anything, I've always felt like my life was in danger around my family, my emotional well-being, my physical well-being, like everything. I always felt like my safe space was like outside of my family. And quite honestly, I still feel that way. You know, being 33, I still feel the same. I've created an entirely different kind of family, you know, so I really do love, cherish, and respect my friendships because those are the places where I have been my most vulnerable self. With my family, I've never felt that at all.
Yeah.
And even when you try to like convey that to them, they don't get it.
Yeah, I think we're very similar in this way. Like my friends have become my family 110%. And I think that's why I'm so comfortable sharing like my healing and getting vulnerable, because I'm like, these people have shown me that like there is a safe space.
Yeah.
Looking back, obviously, with what you went through, even if both of you and your fiance weren't like kind of in a young toxic phase, it probably wouldn't have been right timing just because of what you were going through. I've talked openly on here about like my depression and like my off and on like suicidal ideation and like feeling just that I didn't want to be here. And I think when you share that, people always want to know. So I'm going to ask you the same question. Like, how do you get from there to like hope again? Like, how do you get to like pushing forward and like grieving and accepting and continuing when something so heavy is not only revealed, but also like you were gaslit for a long time and like your reality doesn't feel like reality? That can be like very deregulating. What did you have to start doing? I guess like logistically, I'm assuming like therapy and stuff, but like mentally, what switches did you have to make to like continue to push on?
Quite honestly, I went to therapy for like the first 2 years that I lived here. I was doing it on the DL. I didn't even tell my fiance. I would go during the day. Like for some reason, I felt like this weird kind of shame around it because that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
My family doesn't believe in therapy and, you know, mental health and all of that. So eventually, like I did tell him, but there was just so much that felt wrong. And for me, quite honestly, it was just constantly telling myself that I am not the result of all that chaos. And even if I was, it doesn't have to be my story, you know, like that doesn't have to limit me from anything. And honestly, just being really open and honest about it.
Yeah.
Telling people about my story, because my mother is a victim. No, like she thinks that she is a victim.
Yeah.
And she was, but her entire life doesn't have to be that way. And she is a narcissist. Okay. Like narcissist, final boss.
Girls unite.
You know, like she is a narcissist, final boss. And all the things that she's done after, I would have thought that we were going to become closer, but I felt like if anything, it actually like caused like a bigger wedge. And seeing my mother living her life as a victim, honestly, is what helped me get to this place, because she hates her life. She's miserable. She's constantly like, there's no accountability. It's always somebody else's fault. It's always this and that, but it's never me, you know, like never taking claim of like the things that she's done and said that has also like kind of taken her to this place in life.
Well, I mean, I love that you're speaking on this because I feel like anyone that struggles with mental health, anyone that's experienced any type of trauma from big to small, I feel like the problem is that like we attach it to our identity. It becomes so deeply tied to our identity that like we can't let it go in a way that's like almost stubborn, and we're perpetuating our own misery. I say it all the time, but we're perpetuating these patterns. We're perpetuating like the self-hatred. We're perpetuating the trauma. And I think it comes to a point where it's like, okay, you didn't choose this, but like, you're kind of continuing to choose it. You're 25, you're 35, you're 45. Like, when are you going to choose your own life? In my own healing too, it was this like phase of like, I like that I'm damaged. Like, I deserve to say that. I deserve to sulk. And that wasn't helping anyone. That wasn't validating my experience. It was only hurting me.
No.
And so I love that you're speaking to this, because I think even seeing it in like our parents and in the people around us who haven't maybe done the work, maybe if you don't have a narcissistic mother, good for you. Like, there are tons of us who are just not choosing ourselves and not choosing to look in the mirror. And I think when you can see that in other people, you're like, fuck, like, I don't want that to be me.
Yeah, I mean, it really does start from within. What really helped me was my relationship with my ex ending. You know, like, I have nothing but good things to say about him. I wish him the best. But quite honestly, like, that was the last thing that needed to happen for me to really heal. And I do believe that all of it happened for a reason. You know, he was there in my life and we were there in our lives when I felt like we both really needed it. But I had so much like self-healing to do.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really able to do that until he left me.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, stuck with, holy shit, I just lost somebody that I thought was like the love of my life. I really do need to figure out my life. Like, what do I want it to be? Am I going to be this like toxic, manipulative asshole? You know, that was kind of like my mother.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because I think a huge wake-up call for me was this fear of becoming my mother.
I
100%. Like, I saw in the way I communicated and the way I reacted, like how quick I was to like judge and get angry and be toxic. I saw pieces of my mother, and I knew deep down that I wasn't narcissistic, but like that was my only example. That was all I knew. And so I think having to like rewire that, of course, was painful. It was hard to like look in the mirror and kind of admit that there was some things popping up that looked familiar, but like changed my life. Was it easy? Fuck no. I mean, I was the same way, like fight or flight all the time.
I'm defensive as hell. Like, I think for me, the accountability, that was really hard, you know? Like, I definitely did not deserve my ex. You know, I was a total asshole, you know, and he really did love me, but just, we weren't right for each other. And like, he is not the best father. And I thought that in my mind, I could change that. I could help mend that relationship. But it was like, who the hell am I to like mend anyone else's like broken ass relationship? You know, it's like, here I am trying to fix something. When I couldn't even fix my life and fix myself. But that's what people tend to do, right? Oh, I can't fix my own shit. Let me go and try and fix somebody else's.
This story is reminding me. So I ran into my ex actually in downtown like a couple years ago, but not the one you met, like the one from when I was much younger, when I was like so fucking chaotic. Like my last ex, like we were toxic, but I think I was like a little more like closer to like starting to rewire and like go to therapy. The one before, like my first boyfriend ever, like in college, in the beginning of college, I was a train wreck. Like I was so hurt. I was so like victim mentality. Like I was just so toxic, so not communicative. And I ran into him in downtown, and it was so weird because I was not expecting the amount of like shame I felt when I saw him, because I was like so embarrassed that like he still had that like picture of me. And I feel that about like a lot of the people in my life from that time where I'm like, dude, like it's embarrassing to me that like people know me as that and that that's all they know me as, because I've changed so much. And I had to catch myself and like almost like give myself grace. Like, no, like you've done the work now, it's fine. But like, how did you like kind of like cope with like that shame of like, damn, like that was not the best version of myself? Because I assume this was like a couple years that like you were probably not being the most pleasant person the entire time.
No.
I know I wasn't in my rock bottom.
Yeah, no, I was terrible. I was a terrible person, but I wasn't really truly healing. It was just like I was just masking it. And it wasn't until he left where I did feel like an intense amount of guilt and shame because, you know, here was this person who was so kind and like loving and giving, and I was just taking, but I was a victim, right?
Yeah.
Like I thought like, oh, well, woe's me. Like I
like, of course I'm like this.
Yeah, of course.
Like I deserve to act like this.
Yeah. And like, if you can't love me at my worst, like, well, then we don't need to be together.
Yeah.
You know? And it wasn't until that relationship ended where I was like, holy shit, you are an asshole. You're an asshole. People don't need that. Your life is short. How do you want to be remembered?
Yeah.
In my culture, my mom loves this saying. She tells me this all the time. It's "Ki sao thì che, ki đẹp thì khoe," which basically just translates to you hide the ugly and you show the beautiful.
Damn.
You know? And so that is how they live their lives, which is just, you know, we'll just put it on the rug. Like, it's okay. It's okay. And we'll just present to the world, you know, this beautiful united front. And I'm not. I am messy, you know, like I am chaotic. My life is gross and, you know, I've had to deal with some shit. And I felt like rather than just trying to mask that or making myself a victim like my mother, I was just going to be really honest about it, you know? And
yeah, I'd argue that's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, and I would argue that like when you mask, that's what makes you so angry.
Yeah.
Because that's what was happening to me. Like I couldn't believe how angry I was. Like I didn't realize how angry I was living.
Yeah.
And I think it is when you're hiding and you're violating your conscience and you're like pretending to be something you're not and you're hiding behind this victim mentality, like you are just bearing just intense anger.
Yeah.
And when you start being honest with yourself, of course, but you're right, others too, and just being honest, like, hey, like this is what I'm going through. Like there's no room to be angry. Like you've already kind of let it go.
Yeah, I think for me, what honestly really worked was just talking about it, you know, talking about my like life and just being so honest about it where, you know, like my family would absolutely hate that, you know, because till this day they do think of it as like a very shameful incident and like they're very embarrassed by it. But I'm like, why are you guys embarrassed by it? I'm not embarrassed by it. I didn't do anything. You know, I wasn't the rapist.
Yeah.
You know, he is the one that should be like ashamed of himself. Why are we protecting him?
Yeah.
You know, and my mother, like, she has had some shit happen in her life, and quite honestly, like, I wish that she would find medication, anything, honestly, but alcohol, and just because she is a victim and she just absolutely is miserable. And I don't want to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's different levels of like a victimhood too. And I think I've seen like every single one. Like I've been every single version. The one I've recently had to get over, and I think we've talked about this, is like when you hear someone else talking about like their struggles, and I'm just like, are you serious? Like, are they really complaining to me right now about that when I've been through this? And I started doing that in my head where I was like kind of judging people.
Yeah.
And then I caught myself and I was like, oh my God, you're doing it again. That's a victim mentality. Trauma is relative. There are always going to be different levels of victimhood. I think as you move through your healing, like that's life. Like, I don't think it's ever going to go away. But how many times can you call yourself out? Like, how many times can you look in the mirror and like people like our moms or like other people who are just unwilling to do that, like they will stay in victimhood.
Yeah. And quite honestly, like, I still have to check myself.
For sure.
You know, all the time, where I'll be like, God, why are they complaining? Like, really? Your aunt called you fat at a family function alone, you know? And I'm like, and it's like the worst thing possible. And I'm like, welcome to my life. Like, my life is terrible. My life was 10 times worse. And I just had to stop doing that. Like, I still catch myself, but that really had to stop because, like you said, like, trauma is relative, you know? And my boyfriend and I now, we do that with, you know, his daughter, where we're like, no. Like, if this is the worst thing that's like happening in her life, we are all doing something that like right.
Yeah.
You know? And so I don't wish anyone, you know, more trauma or anything, but
No.
it is something that I had to stop myself from doing.
Well, and like circling back to like our drive, I think that was like such a beautiful moment for me because I felt like I was in kind of like a week. I remember being in this like dark headspace of like, I can't connect to anyone. Like no one gets me. Like I've been through so much. No wonder I can't connect to people. No one understands me. And I remember it was so divine for me because I remember just you randomly needing this ride and then randomly sharing. Because at the time I didn't feel like, and maybe this is because when I met you, it was like the beginning of your healing. I didn't feel like you were someone that was so emotionally available in that way. So for you to just like share all of that, it was so divine for me because it was this reminder that like everyone is going through something. And most of the time it's probably worse than you. But sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And it's all relative. And I just have to thank you because it was such an amazing drive for me. And it really recalibrated my view I already had, but I needed the reminder that like everyone is going through something. Like it's not just you.
Yeah. And I think that's the one thing with this industry is that everything can be very surface level, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, after my engagement ended, I kind of stopped doing the whole like content creation and like focusing on myself and stuff because I needed to like do a lot of like work within myself. And I felt like all of these events that I was going to was just very like, I don't know, it wasn't serving me anything.
Yeah.
And I felt like I wasn't really getting anything out of it, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like connections or networking. I just meant like
emotionally.
Yeah. I was like craving real relationships and friendships and going to these events and getting stuff. And it just wasn't like, it wasn't enough for me. And so I kind of did take like a huge break. But then when you do meet people, you know, like I've met some of my best friends online and, you know, we've had crazy, amazing, beautiful, ugly talks with each other where you're like, I see you and you see me and you do connect and you do start building these like bonds with people. And so it can be very beautiful.
Yeah. Going off of that, something I feel like I probably don't feel consciously, but would be stupid to say it's not happening subconsciously is I think I really struggle to like have emotional intimacy with people. I think it is hard. Like I think I have a podcast and present very like open and vulnerable. I think that's because it's in service of others and it's for like my community and the people that I know are really struggling. But when it comes to like romantic relationships and making friends, I feel very disconnected and I feel very, I think, vulnerable in those ways because of the things I've been through and because of my childhood. How have you like allowed yourself, especially with the things you've been through and not just your childhood, but like this huge realization and like the reality being denied and the betrayal? Like, how do you trust people? I know you're in a like loving relationship now. I know you're like making friends and have made such big shifts in your life. Like, how have you allowed yourself to start trusting others?
For like all the bullshit that I've been through in life, I will have to say that I really felt like God blessed me with amazing, beautiful relationships and just people who are very open and honest, you know, with themselves, that I've kind of been able to look up to these people and say, I kind of want to live my life like that, you know, like just great friends to look up to. Even my relationships, you know, none of them worked out, but even those people in those relationships, they all taught me like something, right? They all taught me what it is to be something like, and like I've taken a little bit of everything that I've learned from people and really like applied it to my own personal life. And so now I'm not very open. Like I'm kind of like you. I actually don't have a lot of friends.
Yeah. I think we need to now hang out.
I know. We need to hang out all the time. But yeah, I don't hang out with a lot of people. I talk to like the same 10 people.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a feeling though. It's a feeling where, I don't know, it's like a weird sense that I get where if I'm not feeling it within like the first like minute or so, I'm kind of just checked out.
We're the same. I've actually been working on really trying to give people more than a minute.
Same.
I'm like, okay, you can sit, you can do this, like stay in, because I think like the inability to connect or like at least for me, and I think like this fear of like emotional intimacy and letting people in is really rooted in self-hatred. I think like almost this like, I'm not deserving of having these things.
Yeah.
And I think I've gotten to a point in my healing where it's like, no, I am fucking deserving of a relationship, and I am deserving of like a safe family dynamic and of safe friends and of a life that I like long for, even if I feel like sometimes emotionally or like tangibly I don't feel it all the time. Like I deserve that. And so I think like if I can't fully feel 100% in self-love all the time, at least I can stay committed to continue to try.
Yeah. I've had a lot of failed friendships where they really do hurt you, you know, whether it was because of me or something. I feel like all of the friendships that I've made here during my time in San Diego have kind of all ended in the same manner, where there was no conversation really to be had, where I felt like I was kind of the one chasing them to explain like, hey, why are we not hanging out? Or, hey, like, what's going on? I feel tension or whatever. But it may seem like, okay, I'm kind of like the common denominator, but I have realized that of all of those friendships that have ended, I have always been the one to reach out, like, what's going on? Like, why are we not hanging out? Like, did I do something? And I feel like I do a good job now of like owning it. Yeah. Like right then and there. But then at that point, by the time we have those conversations, those friends have already checked out. And so one thing that I have noticed is that I am very picky about who I expose myself to. The people that I meet where, I hate to say it, but have identity issues and don't truly know themselves, those are the scariest people to like be friends with.
I know. We are the same. Like if I can tell that someone can't like look themselves in the mirror and call themselves out, I'm like genuinely scared of like, because you just know that you can't have a like successful dynamic with them. It's just because like if I can take accountability and you can't, like we're not going to get anywhere because something's bound to pop up. And two, I'm just kind of like, oh my God, like you remind me of someone I know, like kind of vibe where it's like it is triggering for me because you're reminding me of my family. Two, you're kind of triggering my like Bob the Builder, I can fix it. And three, I'm going to be disappointed. Trying to like hash out the fix it stuff and like the self-worth, that stuff's hard. And I think that's going to take years. But I think something I've really struggled with is like trying to drag people up with me or drag people on like this healing journey with me. And I think that's when, to our point earlier, the judgmental stuff pops up because I'm like, you haven't even been through anything that hard. Come on. But again, it's like accepting that trauma's relative and that people have to choose it themselves. Like you can't force them to. And that involves letting go of people sometimes or not pursuing a deeper relationship.
Yeah. And it's scary to be so vulnerable with people. But I think for me, I'm very open to it now because life is short. I've been through some shit. And I feel like people walking in and out of my life is just, it's going to be one of those things that happens. And I've gotten over every single thing that has happened so far. And I always end up being okay. You know, it does leave a little mark on you, but I just refuse to honestly let it define me and how I continue living my life because I'm not a perfect person, but I do know that I do offer, you know, the people in my life something. I would love to go above and beyond, you know, and for me, it's really important to have these open and honest conversations because friendships take work. You know, my closest friends that I've had since like high school and college, we're very honest with each other and it takes work. You know, friendships will go through different seasons, relationships will go through different seasons. And I'm not the best communicator in my personal like relationship with my boyfriend. That's something that he tells me that I need to work on all the time. And I do. But
I think you can confidently say you're in a place where you can hear that.
Yes. Like it sucks sometimes. And he tells me I'm the most defensive person ever. But I kind of get that from my mom and I want it to go away so bad where it's like, I don't have to just all of a sudden like put my guard up the moment he says something, you know, like I want to be able to be receptive, you know, because that's how we're going to have this long lasting, beautiful relationship.
I think for me, I've been able to do that by mastering the pause. Like just being able to like get myself out of fight or flight and just pause for a second and think about like why I'm angry.
Yeah.
And it's usually because I'm scared that like they don't like me or that I'm doing something wrong or that they're going to leave me.
Yeah.
And I think if I can get to a place, and to your point, I think it takes time, of course.
Yeah.
But like now I've put in the work to a point where I would say 85% of the time I pause. And then if I can get pause long enough, it's like usually I'm like, I'm not going to react like that. Like, that's so stupid. I don't want to be that person.
What's crazy is I can do that with my friendships.
It always starts though that way.
I'm always like, oh no. Like, what's wrong? Like, I'm so sorry. I apologize, like up and down, you know.
Yeah. Even if I don't think I'm wrong, I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because I know I want to hear it.
Yeah. And because like, also I feel like my friendships are so important to me that I'm like, we're going to fight. We're going to argue, you know, if you're that important to me, we're going to be very close. Right. And so we're bound to just, you know, argue every now and then, or I'm going to do something to piss you off, but like you're family to me. And so that's how I see it, is that we don't need to just like cut off a friendship. Let's just have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And so when they don't want to have a conversation about it, it really does cut deep and it hurts. But then it's disappointing. But then you think about it later and you're like, quite honestly, like, I just don't think you're in a place to even like have friendships then if you're not able to talk about it, you know?
Well, I think the reality is like, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably very similar to us in some way, but it's like when you've like lived in a very deep way, you've experienced in a deep way, you've grieved in a very deep way, like you want deepness, like you want deep connection. I don't have time for anything but that.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm trying to work on like giving people a chance to show me that side of them, because to your point, like I'm someone that right off the bat now is just like very open if I feel there's like an energetic connection, because I'm like, let's test the waters. And when it's not met, I feel like I do cut people off too soon.
Yeah.
But like at a certain point, like you can tell if someone is like willing to be honest with themselves, and like I don't have time for someone who doesn't want like a deep relationship with not only me but themselves.
Absolutely. You know, because like I'm not perfect, but I love myself. You know, I'm a mess, but I feel like
You're not.
But I feel like I've put myself together in a way where I can be proud of myself. Like, let's just say I were to die tomorrow, I would be okay with the person that I am.
Yeah.
You know, and it's taken a lot of work. But I have given myself a lot of grace. I have forgiven myself for a lot of the bullshit that I've done and put people through, put myself through, you know. And I have learned that a lot of the things that have happened, it doesn't define me. And so once you allow yourself to do that, you're really able to just continue moving forward.
Yeah, I always say like once you can grieve like the trauma, the reveal in your case, or the thing, like you can start to accept.
Yeah.
And I think once you can extend empathy too, you can start to accept. And people listening, I know, are already going to be like super inspired just to hear your story. But like if you were to leave people with like just a piece of advice, like how can people be more resilient? Like how can people like push themselves to like be honest with themselves and like move forward? Like even if there's some little like mental health routine things you do in your week, like what are some things that keep you kind of on track with like who you want to be?
This sounds crazy. I don't do any meditating. I knew
you were gonna. I had a feeling you were gonna say that.
I'm not like that.
You're like, I shop. I retail shop.
I shop. Quite honestly, no. I actually give myself a lot of time, and I just think a lot. I think about the things that I want to be and accomplish, like just within myself, not really like work-wise, but just the type of person that I want to be, and eventually like the type of woman and like mother I want to be. And I know that in order to be ready, that I do need to constantly like work on myself, but just constantly give grace to myself too. Like, because growing up, a lot of it, you know, you just don't think about it. You know, you have to just, let's just put it behind us. Like, let's just not talk about it. Let's not think about it. Let's not talk about it. And like being open with when you actually need help. Yeah. When you're feeling sad, depressed, whatever. Like I really do vocalize it. Like, I sit my boyfriend down.
You communicate.
I do. I tell my boyfriend all the time. I don't let it like just, you know, sit and fester within me. Like I do. I talk about it, and then I don't even really need advice. You already know what you need to do. It's just more like I need to actually like say this stuff out loud.
Yeah, hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Since we brought it up, I know this is like changing gears, but I feel like we had such a heavy episode. I have to ask, like, people who are watching are going to see your amazing outfit. I know we mentioned retail shopping. You need to share like your top 3 places that people are sleeping on, because I like constantly shop your links, like whenever you share online.
Oh my God. I feel like I always shop at the same places. I don't have like a specific style, right? Like it just
You kind of do though. It's like Kimmy style. Like I know it.
I feel like it's so like
You're always on trend.
I don't always take my pictures all the time. So like I find myself in these super cute outfits where like people will see me in, you know, out and about, but like I don't ever document it because
yeah, unless you like see me. Like Kimmy does this thing where she'll send me stalker photos of myself like around San Diego, but she won't come up and say hi to me.
That's so funny because I'm usually like on the go. I'm supposed to be somewhere, and or like you're super on the go.
Yes.
Where I'm like, oh, she's walking. Like she has places to be.
It's hilarious though, because it's happened multiple times where you like take a picture of me at the nail salon, at the mall. But I made the joke about shopping being your retail therapy, but I think I ask for you to share the brands because I do think self-expression is a way we can like grieve and self-accept. And I think you've done that too. Like I feel like I've noticed just following you for as long as I have how much like your style has evolved, like how confident you feel. Like so I'm like, drop the links, girl, drop the brands. Where should people shop?
I am obsessed with ASOS. That's like my top one right
now.
I
need this out. Yeah, I need this top.
No, like all of it is ASOS. I think my shoes are Zara or whatever. But I love Mango. Unfortunately, this store is just not giving though.
Yeah.
I feel like I just have to
go online.
Yeah, you have to go online. Everything is online. I told my boyfriend today I was so excited about my outfit and he just doesn't get it. That's when I know that I'm doing something right.
Oh my God, yeah.
He's just like, I mean, as long as you're like happy in it, you know, or you're comfortable. And I'm like, you don't get it, but it's okay.
I've been loving seeing your transformation, and I want to affirm you because I think that we don't get to hear a lot. Like that people see us and they see us moving and like growing and changing. And I feel like it's been 100% apparent that like you have completely went through like a healing journey, like not just from like the way you act, the way you talk, but the way you dress, the way you present yourself. Like it's so incredibly obvious, and you should be like so proud of yourself.
Thank you. You too.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, like, look at this. Like we've known each other for, I feel like a long time, but it's taken a long time to even like talk about it, you know, and get to know each other more.
I think it's the perfect timing.
Yeah.
We met at the perfect timing. I think us together, unhealed, would have been like a tornado.
Yeah.
I would have been right there with you in the apartment, just chugging that tequila.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay, I ask everybody before they leave the podcast is called How I See It. Looking back at the journey you've had thus far, your healing journey, there's so much more to go, but looking back, how do you see it? How do you see it all?
I look back at it. I do. I think about it, especially since I just went home.
Oh, you know? So triggering.
It is. I look back and I don't regret anything, because had none of that stuff happened with my family, with me, I don't think that I would be in the place I am today, living in like one of the most beautiful cities, like constantly wanting to challenge myself, be better, do better, just mentally, with work, with my friendships. I wouldn't be where I am today had none of that stuff happened. So I do look back at it and I see it as just chapters.
I love that. I love that. I always talk about the healing journey in chapters because I really think like to move forward, you have to get through them all. Being able to look in the mirror, be honest with yourself, look at your life as chapters, like allows you to like see other people clearly too. And especially from our job, like be able to execute for them in their mission as well. And I agree.
It challenges you, you know, as like a person to just constantly do better, to just experiment with doing new things and just not like holding yourself back.
Yeah. And I think to the no regrets thing too, I feel the same way. Like I feel like I spent so long, like pouting in the like, I wish I could be normal. I wish that didn't happen to me. I wish I didn't have to go through that. And I think I've just recently got to a place where I'm like, that is so boring to like be that way. And like, this has made me who I am. Like, I don't even think I would want any different, even on my bad days.
No, absolutely not. Like I do look back at my life and I just really do I don't appreciate some of this stuff, you know, because, you know, like
I could have gone without some of
this stuff, you know, like X out the sexual abuse type stuff, you know, that type of stuff. But even that, you know, had I not gone through any of that, the physical abuse, the actual abuse, like, I would not be here today.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
You know, so I really do look back at it. I'm not a victim. That was just something that happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And move forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So much for coming here, being so vulnerable, really committing to the mission here, which is just to like be fucking unapologetically real.
Thank you.
Please share where people can follow you on Instagram and how people can work with you if they want to work with the agency.
You can just DM me at my handle, Kimmy Koyo, KIMICOYO.
Yay. I'll put it in the show notes too. Thank you, Kimmy.
Yay, this was fun.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you leave here feeling motivated and inspired. Do not forget to rate and review the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and don't forget to follow How I See It Pod so you can keep up with podcast updates and see who's coming on next. And if you're not already, come join the fam and follow at How Han Sees It. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you leave here feeling motivated and inspired. Do not forget to rate and review the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and don't forget to follow How I See It Pod so you can keep up with podcast updates and see who's coming on next. And if you're not already, come join the fam and follow at How Han Sees It. Thank you guys.